What's going on, Mayhem family? Couple ideas today around Achilles health and better force production when the hip is behind you. We are runners, we're gonna have to do that thing and we're gonna have to absorb force. The hip is an extension through the foot. Now, problem with CrossFit typically is, believe it or not, we don't often see a ton in this position where I'm pushing and driving, unless I'm on the pig, I'm on flipping something, and then I've got to drive off this back leg. And believe it or not, this is where we see most of the Achilles strains, calf strains on the planet. No one strains their calves here. People strain their calf when they're changing direction in this direction. So we want to make sure that we're exposing this, and also one of the ways that we want to unlock the range of motion of the ankle is not just to deal with the ankle inflection. So we're sort of all obsessed about ankle range in this position, but I want to be obsessed about ankle range in this position. So I've got two ideas to work on this today. The one is a simple isometric to be thrown in wherever you like, at home, on the kitchen. And what you're gonna do is, this is a small diameter roller. I'm just gonna wind my foot up. So if I have a slant board at my work, or this is a curb while I'm pumping gas, I turn the foot in, so I internally rotate the hip. And this is crucial to understand because as I'm translating forward over this leg, there's gonna be some internal rotation of the hip. What ends up happening is that if I don't have access to this range, and my foot's always turned out, as I step, you can see how that foot is not working right and the Achilles is pulling off axis. And that's a recipe for a problem in the tissue. So I internally rotate the foot and then I'm just gonna step across. Now the key here is you'll see that as soon as you step across, most people will bend the knee. I wanna step across and be able to squeeze my butt and straighten this leg. This is one of my favorite drills. I can just move in and out of this position, stepping across, squeezing the glute. This is just an easy way of hitting some of the deep fibers of that calf while still winding up this foot into this rotational capacity. And you're starting to expose the hip into hip extension. So can I squeeze my butt, tie this glute into the fascia of the system? And you'll see that you're like, holy moly, I'm feeling that deep stretch pull in places I might not access it very often. So this is crucial, easy to do. A couple minutes of that and you'll be like, holy moly. And it makes a difference that you can dorsiflect your foot with the hip and extension. It will help dorsiflexion in all things. Now the second one is one of my favorite finishers after training. It's an easy isometric to drop in. What I'm gonna do is just get into a split stance here. I'll do it in the same leg. The split stance, and I'm just gonna grab a couple kettlebells. Now I come up on the toe in the front foot, that tips everything back, fires up this hip, so I get better hip extension. Glute is squeezed, but instead of just keeping the foot here, I'm gonna drop the ankle down so I can feel all the met heads, and I'm gonna drop the ankle down until I'm at my end of my range of motion here. So instead of hanging out in this position, I'm gonna hang out and lock that foot down to my limit. So if I shift forward, the heel's gonna come off the ground, that's totally okay. But grab a couple kettlebells, get into this end range position, wonderful finisher. This is a finisher isometric I like anyway, but then go ahead and put the heel down and hit to the limits of your range, and then tip your system back. And what you've got is this big isometric. Glute is still squeezed, but now I'm closing that ankle down at the limits of my range with overpressure. And I can move in and out of that, but I guarantee you, you're not exposing yourself to that range. And when you come and test that, you're gonna be like, holy moly, that is much better. So we've gotta work on that dorsiflexion in that hip extension, long lever position. You're not gonna have as much as if you were in a flex position, but we've got to load those tissues in that shape. So not only are we going to have some exposure to these ranges to protect us, but we're also going to be working on our range of motion in a sneaky way, like a conjugate way. See you next week.